It often begins in silence. No one notices. Maybe you were just a kid sitting across from a parent who was unraveling. Maybe it was addiction, maybe it was rage, maybe it was the kind of numbness that feels louder than words. And in that stillness, something ancient sparks in your young mind. If I don't hold everything together, no one will. That's how a child disappears. Not physically, but emotionally. They smile more, cry less. They learn to sense the mood in the room before they speak. They become the emotional anchor of the home. A little adult in a body too small for the weight it carries. And the world claps. You're so mature. You're so strong. So responsible. But no one asks, at what cost? This is the silent grief of those who had to grow up too fast. And that grief doesn't vanish with age. It follows you into your relationships, your job, your sense of identity. It becomes the background noise of your life. If you don't understand it, you end up repeating the same survival patterns that once protected you, but now quietly destroy you. When a child is made to carry the emotional burden of adults, psychologists call it parentification. It's when the child becomes the caretaker, the fixer, the calm in someone else's storm. It doesn't just wound, it rewires. The brain adapts. You become hyper-aware of everything. You walk on eggshells, you learn that love has conditions. You give peace in hopes of receiving safety. You stop showing your needs, because somewhere along the way you were taught that your needs are dangerous. So you vanish, not on the outside but inside. And what grows in your place is a version of you who performs beautifully. The perfect child, the quiet achiever, the therapist friend, the one who never asks for anything in return. And you wear this mask so well you forget it's even a mask. But deep down, something still hurts, because the child you buried never died. They're still in there, silently screaming, "Why didn't anyone protect me?" As you grow older, the symptoms evolve. You become fiercely independent. Not out of confidence, but out of fear. You push people away. You can't relax, not really. Joy feels foreign. Rest feels unsafe. Productivity becomes your only measure of worth. And maybe worst of all, you don't even realize you're still in survival mode. When dysfunction becomes your childhood normal, your nervous system starts mistaking chaos for calm. Stillness feels suspicious. Love feels like a debt you'll one day have to repay. This isn't just sadness, this is trauma, and it reshapes how you see the world and, more painfully, how you see yourself. So why would a child willingly take on that role? Because children crave connection more than truth, and when safety is absent, they'll trade authenticity for belonging. It's not weakness, it's instinct, it's survival. But here's the tragedy. What saved you then is what traps you now. Many of us are walking around as fully functioning adults, while our abandoned inner child is still the one making our decisions. We overachieve to be loved. We stay silent to avoid rejection. We care for everyone else, secretly hoping someone will finally care for us. That hope, that someone might look beneath your strength and say, "You don't have to be okay all the time." That's not your adult self speaking. That's the child inside you, still waiting to be seen. Healing doesn't start with fixing. It starts with witnessing. Because as long as you keep telling yourself, "It wasn't that bad. Others had it worse. I turned out fine," you're gaslighting your own pain. And let's be honest, fine is a mask too. So what happens to that child when they grow up? They become adults who never feel safe, even in peaceful rooms. They become lovers who don't trust tenderness. They become givers who can't receive. They apologize for their tears, flinch at compliments, and confuse burnout with success. This is what happens when your childhood taught you to be strong instead of soft, quiet instead of honest, helpful instead of whole. So what kind of adulthood does that create? One where you're constantly holding your breath, waiting for permission to finally fall apart. But no one is coming to rescue the child you buried. That's your job now. You are the one who must go back and take their hand. You are the one who must say the words no one ever did. You didn't deserve that. You were just a child. You're allowed to rest now. This is where the real healing begins. Not through pretending, not through positive vibes only, but by facing the parts of you that were left behind and saying, I see you. I hear you. I'm not leaving. And yes, it's hard. It asks you to feel grief you never had the space to feel. It asks you to mourn the birthdays no one celebrated, to feel the anger of having to grow up while protecting people who were supposed to protect you. But that grief, it's not weakness, it's proof that your heart is thawing, that you're finally safe enough to feel again. In adulthood, these old patterns still show up, but in clever, quiet ways. You become the emotional caretaker in all your friendships. You get praised for being so independent, while secretly terrified of being a burden. You overfunction in relationships, always explaining, fixing, managing. And yet you feel empty. You struggle with boundaries. Saying no still feels like betrayal. But these are not your personality traits, these are survival strategies. Conditioned, rehearsed, and thankfully, reversible. But only when you stop idolizing your strength and start honoring your wounds. One of the most powerful things you can ask your inner child is, what did I need that I never received? You might hear answers like, I needed to know it wasn't my fault. I needed someone to ask how I was feeling. I needed to laugh, to rest, to play without fear. And little by little you begin giving those things to yourself. Not to fix the past, but to stop reliving it. That's how you stop looking for parents in your partners. That's how you stop confusing anxiety with intuition. That's how you stop running from the child you were and start embracing the person you're becoming. Carl Jung once said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. And he was right. People will do almost anything to avoid facing their own soul. But shadow work demands that we face all of it. The neglected, the ashamed, the frightened, the furious. Because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. If you grew up too fast, hear this. Your maturity was never the problem. The problem was you didn't have a choice. But now you do. You can choose softness. You can choose rest. You can choose to stop managing everyone else's feelings and start listening to your own. And no, it won't be easy. Some days you'll feel like a child again. Good, that's the point. Let that child come home. Let them cry. Let them play. Let them finally be seen. Because you are not broken. You are becoming whole. And maybe for the first time, you're finally growing up the right way. Not through fear, not through pressure, but through truth. You never had a childhood, but you still have a future. And this time, you get to write it.